From the Agricultural Revolution to the Scientific Revolution. Episode 1. The Land of Milk and Honey. When asked why the Old Testament referred to the Promised Land as the land of milk and honey, it was replied, "If you have milk, you have cattle, and if you have honey, you have orchards." The Neolithic, or Agricultural Revolution, marks the most significant time in human social development. This is when we moved from nomadic hunter-gatherer lifestyles to settlements where people could tend herds and crops. Settlements gave rise to economic, social, and cultural institutions, while collective experience gave rise to innovations in law, math, and engineering that led to larger settlements and navigation. Princeton professor Clifford Geertz spoke of critical times in society when established pools of information developed emergent traits, leading to the birth of new types of information that were game changers. Some historical examples include the development of agriculture, math, writing, and the scientific method. Religion seems to arise to fill a need or desire within people to know or understand who and what they are, where they came from, and where they may be going. Geertz and others questioned the validity of a general theory of all religions. That being said, he defined religion as a system of symbols, establishing powerful commitments, using a general order of existence, and framing it as factual so that the religion seems uniquely realistic. Göbekli Tepe of southeastern Anatolia in Turkey is the earliest known site for religious ceremonies. It is famous for its large circular structures that contain massive stone pillars. They are decorated sculptural reliefs of wild animals. The area is also covered with domestic structures and other small buildings. The religion of this era finds its origins in ancestor worship, with the natural development of a mother goddess. Venus, or goddess figurines, show up in the Upper Paleolithic as early as 25,000 years ago. Goddess figurines are commonly found throughout Neolithic settlements, and goddess worship continued until the Romans shut down the last temple in about 500 CE. Religious significance also seems to have naturally developed around shamanism. Apparent contact with other worlds and special knowledge of healing plants seems to have been revered. There are several graves adorned in ochre containing special tools and figures, sometimes buried in ritual positions dating from 9,000 to 7,000 BCE. The Agricultural Revolution is known as the New Stone Age because of the use of ground stone tools. About 9500 BCE, one of the most important emergent traits occurred at the start of the Agricultural Revolution. A genetic regression has found that approximately 80 Yuruks in the Anatolia Mountains of modern-day Turkey started the genetic lineage of all domestic cattle on Earth today. By 7500, goats and sheep had been domesticated, but beasts of burden weren't domesticated for another 3,000 to 4,000 years. Figs, grains, and chickpeas were domesticated early, but food didn't get really tasty until 4,000, with the addition of chili peppers, watermelon, olives, apples, and pomegranates. The history of Neolithic settlements parallels developments in agriculture, where by 7500 we found large permanent settlements in Jericho, Turkey, and central Yangtze River region. Society accelerated in the 5th millennium, or the Ceramic Neolithic, and by the 3rd millennium, surplus goods and demand for exotic products led to trade routes. There were early Persian bazaars. The Egyptians traded spices with the land of Punt. Austronesian islands in the Southeast Asia established maritime trade routes, and the Silk Road began. The evolution of religion was in full swing by this time and traveled as much as the spices. Religion spread and various mythologies arose, branching out of a common tree. As early as 4000 BCE, Proto-Indo-European language myths and deities of the steppe cultures were described in a pantheon. The Proto-Indo-European mythology eventually gave rise to Vedic, Astrosaurian, Greek, Roman, Germanic, Celtic, and Nordic mythologies. The Proto-Indo-European mythology was polytheistic, with gods representing natural elements. As trade routes developed, so did formalization of law. We had ancient Egyptian legal decrees and contracts. In 1750, the Code of Hammurabi was adopted in Babylon, and the first Chinese law was in 536 BCE. It focused on social control and governance. Stanford professor Yuval Harari points out that religion created a system that could reach beyond the normal-sized group of about 150 individuals who could know and recognize each other. The symbols and standards of religion created a system that could coalesce multiple groups into a larger social structure. Religions evolved with economies and had integral relationships with functions of government and security. In many cases, religion was instilled as the law. In 444 BC, the Torah was formalized as the basis for Jewish law. 800 years later, religion became law again. Constantine convened a council at Nicaea to canonize the laws of the Catholic Church. The first Council of Nicaea was in 325 CE. The Second Council of Nicaea was the Seventh Ecumenical Council, canonizing laws of the Church and subsequently society. Constantine used the military to obtain the Roman Empire and the Catholic Church to maintain it. Just think of the relative cost of maintaining society with the garrisons of soldiers required to take over the empire, compared with the cost of using religion to maintain control. An order of priests could create as much social order as hundreds of soldiers that required weapons, meat, and prostitutes. As a result, the all-inclusive social power handed to the church made it the judge, jury, and executioner, which led to an example of how power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. By the end of the Byzantine, the Church had degraded to inquisitions and explored progressively more cruel tortures to create cascading terror in perceived adversaries before killing many of them. Something had to give, and as we see in the next episode, it did. When the Church stooped to aggressively marketing plenary indulgences or selling free passes to the afterlife to fund the construction of St. Peter's Basilica, a man named Martin Luther just couldn't take it anymore. As we look ahead from the agricultural revolution to the scientific revolution, we will see how the emergent trait of printing and advances in measurement and method open new doors to the future.